Hey guys, and thank you for tuning into this Mark V A90 Supra build powered by Sparesbox. Now, if you haven't already seen the release video for this on my personal Matty Hill Drift YouTube channel, I'm going to chuck a link above me here in the video so you can check that out. So a lot of the content that we're going to be filming over this next 5 to 6 months of the build of this A90 Supra, there will be a full build series available on both my YouTube channel and the Sparesbox YouTube channel that you guys can select in a playlist, so it's easy for you guys to select what content you want to watch. However, today is the very first video that we will be releasing for the build. And today I'm going to give you an insight into how I got the car and a bit more about the shell, which I didn't actually do a walk around video of in the release. So you'll get to see the damage that is on the back of the car because it is a stat write-off and the car was in a crash, but the car only has 1,700 kilometers on it. So it's very much a fresh car. The paint on the underside, the engine bay, everything is very, very clean. So I'm very happy to get my hands on this. And we actually have a donor car as well. So we've got a donor car to repair the back of the Supra. And that's got a complete quarter panel, doors, and a few other components, which I will soon show you as well. So we're gonna start picking that panel off that car very soon. And I'm just waiting to get some space into a panel shop to pull out the back of the Supra so we can get that panel ready for installation. But for today, guys, we're going to start pulling out all the components that are inside the car to get this thing ready for its roll cage installation, which will soon be delivered from AST Roll Cages in Spain. And it's going to be installed by Mark and Duster at Custom Craft Fabrication. So they're a team of 2 that have sponsored me ever since I got into professional drifting. And I'm very, very thankful that they are still on board supporting me 10 years later, as well as having their expertise working on such an insane build this season. So guys, let's go for a quick walk around the car. Let's check out the damage and I'll give you a debrief on what's happening in this video. Let's go. All right guys, here we go. This is the A90 Mark V Supra. Yeah, very exciting. The whole left-hand side of the car looks amazing, but not so much on the right. So this is the impact that I was mentioning. It's had a fairly large hit, but thankfully it actually hasn't damaged the chassis rail. So that's still all intact, but you can see the shell structure here is completely damaged. The boot's completely broken. We'll have to get a new boot for it. But yeah, so basically we're gonna be pulling out the beaver panel here, pulling out the corner here, trying to get this as straight as possible, and then undoing the stitch welds in through the door here, underneath this panel here, and around here, and probably replace all the way from here onwards. But as you can see, there is quite a fair bit of work that needs to be completed before we start pulling out everything in here, because I'm going to cut out the structure in the boot and put a rear-mounted radiator in there, a Phoenix rear-mounted radiator, as well as a fuel tank system here with like a battery and a NOS bottle. So there is a fair bit of work to be done here, and the body kit that we have only covers the quarter panels up to here, which you guys will soon see. So a lot of the builds in America, I've noticed that they have cut the structure out here and all there. So there's actually nothing left here but a panel that goes over the top of it. Unfortunately, that stuff is quite expensive to get from overseas. So we've got a kit that's more attainable and a bit cheaper. And we're going to be installing that on the Supra. But we do have to fix this structure as best as possible because you can see all of this through the panel. It still runs a factory bumper. The body kit is basically like a lip kit, and a lot of the factory components will still have to be intact. Now I didn't get this car rolling as well. So the car was picked up by a forklift when I first got it. So we have had to put a whole lot of the suspension components in this to get the car rolling. I've got some parts from a friend of mine in Japan, Rising Sun Exports, and a few other components off that donor shell that I've got as well. So it has taken a bit of time to get this car rolling. So we are very eager to move forward on this quickly. I'm still waiting for a shop to be available to pull out the rear quarter panel. Hopefully that's happening next week. And today, basically, we're just gonna try and strip this whole car and get all the components out that we're not gonna use. Like you can see, there's an ABS module and all these tanks and everything. There's a whole lot of wiring. We're gonna start stripping all that out, pulling all the dash panel out here. This is a heads-up display. Obviously, we don't need that. This whole frame here, steering column, start pulling all that out. Probably take off this door, which is completely trashed. Still might keep it as a spare because I can get covers for it. But you can see the car's in still, like the parts that are there, like it's got no wear on the steering wheel. All the carbon fiber here on this is still intact. Obviously quite a bit of mess inside. The carpet is still basically brand new. So it is a really, really clean shell and a great starting point. Obviously a bit tricky with the quarter panel, but it is a really great starting point. So let's get this back in the shed and start pulling it apart. All right guys, first up we are removing the driver's side door. And this is really the only panel remaining on the Supra, as you can see, and unfortunately it's also pretty banged up. Surprisingly, the Supra doors are really light, which is great. And after further research, I found that they have an aluminium inner and outer shell. So picking up the door is super easy. This is also a great option as we can run the factory doors without having to search around for aftermarket options. As you can see, this car didn't come with a factory dash, but thankfully I have one of these sitting in my spare donor shell that we can remove and install once the cage is in. I'm very keen on keeping as many interior components as possible, so if I can, I will try and use the standard dashboard and center console. Otherwise, I'll probably have to look into getting some sort of aftermarket option. It was definitely surprising to see how much wiring is hidden below the factory interior. We found multiple computer modules bolted to the roof, as well as the interior framework. And obviously, as we don't need any of this for the race car build, it's all going to be stripped out of the shell and removed. The Supra also comes out with this unique factory tower support brace in the back. But with the roll cage structure soon taking its place, we will no longer need this in the back of the car. Now we are removing what is remaining of the broken stock rear bumper, and during the removal we found multiple wires connected to the lights, impact sensors, as well as a number plate light, which of course will also be removed. Another really cool feature we found in this area was the race style lower brake light. And as I'll be installing a brand new Toyota GR rear bumper back on the car, this is definitely a feature I'm very keen on keeping. With the bumper now removed, we can start disconnecting the factory wiring harness. We'll also remove the factory supports that attach the bumper to the back of the car so we can get a better look at the damaged area that needs to be repaired. Unfortunately, most of these plastic items were broken in the accident, so they'll either need to replace these parts or try to secure the rear bumper to the back of the Supra with some sort of quick release aftermarket option. A common way to save weight when building a race car is by removing the factory heater and air conditioning components under the dashboard, also known as the heater core and condenser unit. As much as I would love to have AC in a drift car, we need to remove these parts to make some space for the roll cage, as well as the structures that hold all the aftermarket braking components, wiring and computer systems. Not to mention we will also save quite a bit of weight by freeing up all this space. As you can see, the factory steering column has been removed. However, I will be installing this back into the car, as I've noticed that this is still being used on other race builds such as Daigo Saito's in Japan and the Papadaka Supra build driven by Frederick Asbo in FD America. Whilst we are working in this area, another thing I thought I should mention is that the Supra only came out with an automatic transmission. So that means we'll have to install an aftermarket brake and clutch pedal box system and attach this to either the floor or the firewall and roll cage. Most of my previous race builds have had pedal boxes installed, so I'm trying to set this car up in a very similar way to what I'm comfortable with. The last item in the interior is ripping out this very nice low kilometer factory carpet. And I know this probably sounds stupid, but leaving the carpet in the car was something that I had considered for a few reasons. It keeps the heat out, it covers the raw metal structure underneath, and like I said earlier, I bloody love the look of stock interior in a race car. However, due to the roll cage being installed into the floor, I would probably have to cut a fair bit of this up to fit correctly. So it's probably better to remove this out of the cabin, and at a guess we'll probably save another 5 kilograms of weight in this area anyways. Moving to the front of the car, we have a few major items that need to be removed. All of the AC lines in the condenser, the factory header tank in the radiator, the ABS system, and basically everything else you can see other than the rad support and the structural items. The game plan is to build a car that is suited primarily for drifting, but I also want to build the car so it is suitable for hill climbs and circuit racing as well. So this means that we might introduce ABS back into the project at a later date. One thing we found difficult to remove was the factory booster and brake pedal assembly on the dash. And considering we couldn't find any removal instructions online, we ended up breaking these small retaining clips that secured the pedal to the booster assembly. I know race cars should have these boosters removed, but this is also another item I consider keeping in the car as it's in a great location and well protected in the engine bay in the Supra. Whereas in my S15, it's jammed up against the turbo dump pipe and commonly causes that to fail due to heat. Even though the 2021 GR Supra is a light car from the factory, by stripping out all of the interior, as well as all of the wiring, we are saving a huge amount of weight, which is ideal when building a race car. As you can see, there is a fair amount of wiring and electrical components installed in the car from the factory, which is pretty common I would say with brand new cars at this level. I'm yet to put these components on a set of scales, but at a guess, I reckon we have removed at least 20 to 30 kilograms or more with these parts now stripped out of the car. With all the interior now stripped out of the Supra, we get a better understanding of how much or how little structural damage there is to the rear of this car. I'm still very surprised how lucky we are to get this car without any main structural damage, considering how bad it really does look. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the content for the A90 Mark V Super build. This is the very first episode. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you have any comments on anything we did in the video today, make sure you drop them below. If you have any ideas, any parts that you think we should use during this build process, obviously very interested to hear. This Supra is going to be the very first build that we do of this caliber. And I'm very excited to be sharing this with you guys on the Sparesbox channel as well as the Matty Hill Drift channel. So make sure you check them both out, follow the series, and I hope you enjoy the content. See you guys soon.